Hey guys, I'm Davey Wavy, creator of the gay erotic website Himeros.tv, and today I am joined by sex and intimacy coach Finn Deerhart, intimacy coordinator LeoRising Scott, and writer and journalist Duane Wells. And today we're talking about gay sex, and in particular, a film titled Smoking Gun. So buckle in, grab your popcorn, and let's get started. Himeros Live is supported by Himeros.tv. Himeros.tv is a different kind of porn site. Our videos are developed by gay sex experts, created by award-winning filmmakers, and feature gorgeous models who are valued and supported with fair pay, on-set coaching, and free mental health support. Himeros.tv is gay porn evolved. Himeros Live listeners are invited to save 20% off their membership by visiting himeros.tv/pod. That's HIMEROS.tv/pod, and memberships are as little as $12 per month. Join the Himeros.tv family today. At what website? Himeros.tv/what? Pod. All right.
I'm not doing that.
Just say no.
Himeros.tv. It's like porn, but better. Yeah. I hate all of you. and that's it for today's.
And scene.
Yeah. You know, also, I hired a marketing consultant, and one of the things he suggested was that the name Himeros Live is probably not the best name for a podcast that's not actually live. And when people see like a Himeros Live section of the website, their expectation in clicking that is that it's like a chatterbait or like a cam show, which is totally true.
Yeah,
it's great feedback.
So, yeah,
that is really good.
So I think we're going to change the name from Himeros Live to something, and I don't know what. Like his suggestion was Himeros Talks, because these are like discussion groups, and I was like, that doesn't have a ring to it.
No,
you know. Like, so if anyone has any suggestions that would like encapsulate what this is, I would be open to hearing it. Maybe a listener will write in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a really great marketing person. That's a very good catch.
Yeah. And we may at some point do some live stuff on the website. I don't know what that would look like, but so anyway. Well, welcome everyone. Welcome back, Duane.
Thank you.
Duane and I are together again in Palm Springs. It's like you never left. My heart is full.
It always feels like I never left.
Yeah. Well, the truth is he ran out of edibles, so he's just coming back to restock. It has nothing to do with
I needed a place to stay
while stocking up. I'll pretend you're here to visit me.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, no, it's nice to have you.
Love.
Can you buy edibles in Texas? I feel ignorant about this.
No.
Mm-mm.
I mean,
so you are stocking
not legally.
So you really are stocking up.
So I mean, not legally, but if you happen to know somebody who drives Uber, I have a couple of drivers' names, but I never know what their stuff is like.
What does driving Uber have to do with it?
There
are a couple of Uber drivers who make deliveries.
I mean,
from California?
Should we have said like remote drivers and maybe not the company?
Today's video is sponsored by Uber. Get your weed.
Well, let's just say delivery services.
Delivery
services.
It'll all be legal soon enough in some states.
Seriously.
I really think it will. Yeah. I think that's the path we're on. Before we get started, I do have some kind of sobering news. I want to express my condolences to the family, friends, and fans of porn star Alex Riley. His death was announced earlier today. We're recording on Thursday. And his boyfriend, who's also a porn star, broke the news on Twitter. And Alex was this beautiful 22-year-old who was full of life and fun, really sweet guy. And, just another porn star that left us too early. And we don't really know the cause of death. But, it seems like so many of these beautiful, talented, sensitive men have been taken from us too early. And I'm just always reminded, especially in like filming with these guys and interacting with them, of how much baggage they carry from the rest of us and how little support they often get. It just doesn't feel sustainable in a lot of ways. So rest in peace, Alex. We'll miss you. All right. I feel like we haven't really checked in a while with everyone, what everyone's doing, what's going on. LeoRising, how is life? What are some of your recent developments?
He tipped his glasses.
What have you been up to?
The glasses are to detract from my fuzzy face. I've not seen a barber in 3 weeks, so.
But you look glamorous, though.
You really do.
You do.
You look cute.
Flosse. You know what I'm feeling myself in? I'm back in Duane, York for a bit, and the first thing I did, the first 16 hours, was I signed up for my CrossFit studio, and my ass is tight, plump, my lower back is on the best kind of relief. Like, there's no pain. My titties are popping. I feel great. I'm in my body. Everything I needed about New York, which was like accessibility, that's less than a half an hour, is there for me.
Yeah.
Being I'm a bred. The semen found the egg. Born and raised New Yorker, and so when I'm other places, if I can't get somewhere walkably in 30 minutes, it's too far, and it messes with my schedule. And I really forgot how much I love accessibility. So I have a lot of gratitude, and I'm feeling myself return to my body and understand what's new about my body. There's so many things that I'm great at that mobility wise and strength wise, while I was caretaking, I had no idea. And like, I'm so freaking strong, and my mental conviction, like I'm never tired. I'm just assessing. I'm like, I can do this smarter. I can modify that. Like, here, I can do this. And so I've noticed there's been a lot more completion, which has been really nice.
Are you in New York City?
No, I'm in the burbs.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm in the burbs above the Bronx.
Okay.
This is the public podcast. Yeah. Why are you always trying to make me give my geolocation to these people?
I was like, well, what
I was thinking to myself, how far is
I totally want to push
this? What is your building?
I think I know what burb you're in.
I want to come visit you.
I'm not trying. These people are lovely, but they don't get my zip code. Like, that's weird for me.
Yeah.
They're lovely, but
yeah,
I don't even like. How are you, Finn?
Yeah.
I'm good. I really miss New York so much. I really want to. I've been like fantasizing. I want to.
You're fantasizing about New York?
Yeah. Something opens up.
Fantasy.
What?
What happens in the fantasy?
Ends up on Twitter.
We contact parts of self. I've had so many fun business trips in New York that I just have such a positive association with it, and I'm always there for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then I leave. So by the time I start getting like, okay, I'm ready to go, I'm out, and I love the guys there. I've had some really fun workshops there with guys. I just miss it.
Yeah. It has its own energy.
Totally.
The project that we're filming this summer in New York, like, it's basically a threesome between 2 models and the city of New York itself, because it brings this vibe, this energy to the production. So it's going to be kind of fun to film that.
That's rad.
Get in my camera.
I did want to mention this piece. For me, I'm starting a series on the 19th. It's Wednesday night, the 19th, and it's 5 Wednesdays in a row, and it's Embodying Desire. So it's just an online course. If couples, singles could do it with somebody if they wanted to do it. It's all on Zoom, but they could do it if they had like a fuck buddy or a friend that they wanted to experiment with. It's a clothing on workshop, but the expectation or the hope is that you'll have like the opportunity to go do homework with somebody or by yourself. But I think the best solution would be like find a friend if you and practice some of the stuff with it.
Where could people get tickets for it?
Yeah, on my website. They can go to my website to the calendar, and then it's called Embodying Desire. If you have any questions, reach out to me. Go ahead.
Does it have like a cap of like how many people can do it, or are you going to kind of keep it open?
There's not a cap. And if there's like a situation where somebody wants to like negotiate with me about tickets or something, that's fine too. Just email me about anything, everything.
Cool. Yeah, good luck.
Go ahead, Finn.
Sounds great.
I'm stoked. I don't know if people want to sign up after today, though.
What's new with you, Duane?
Well, I'm just thrilled. I'm in a really good space professionally and otherwise. And I just feel this tremendous sense of clarity that I haven't felt for a very long time, a sense of purpose moving forward. And
it's because you ran out of edibles. That's why.
Could be. But I am completely not out, by the way. But Texas, you don't know that. But no, it's really nice to feel a sense of clarity going forward after, I think a very turbulent, sort of uncertain year, to sort of feel like I have a path, and it just has all come together, and it's just really amazing.
Green lights,
nothing but green lights. I mean, in old connections, it's been weird, like exes who I had good feelings about have all been reconnecting with me. And it's just, I don't know. I just feel this huge circle of love surrounding me. Yeah, I really do.
Yeah, that's sweet.
That is fucking awesome.
Yeah. I have an update as well. All 4 of us on this podcast, we are all fully vaccinated. So kudos to us.
Cuddle party.
Bravo.
Yeah. And I hope our listeners are getting vaccinated as well.
Cuddle party.
Oh my God. I have to be
like the White House.
I got to be the liberal hippie and just say that as excited as I am to be vaccinated, people still have the autonomy to not do that for whatever reason they're not doing it, and we can still find reason to appreciate them on the planet and in society.
It's challenging for me to do that.
It is okay that it's challenging. It's challenging and it's confronting.
It is.
But, I think being members of the LGBTQ plus community, I think we're going to be the messengers of how to be present with each other on a human level in regards to clinical surveying and safety protocol. Like, it's really on us to really be the best examples of that. And so I remember within our community, our siblings that were kikiing and partying when shit was a hot mess. And I'm aware of the voices that were drowned out who weren't doing those things, but had an aversion to health concerns or state mandated health, applied health or vaccines or any sort of treatment. Like, there's historical reasons why people are uncomfortable with it. And there are hysterical reasons. And then there's just assholes, but I'm not focusing on the assholes. I'm focusing on the conversation that's present. And I hope that heading into Pride Month, that our siblings, we can have clearer conversations. I had the opportunity, my spirit guides are telling me not to name anything, but I had the opportunity of being in proximity to proposing a question to a very a doctor who had some weight with both epidemics of the 80s and this one. And the question I asked was how they managed to, what did they learn about empathy and within themselves, within their practice, and within the people that are their peers, and how do they apply it during COVID? And my question wasn't chosen because it asked them to answer for the AIDS epidemic. Mm-hmm. And so I can understand how that can be a very confronting question coming from a queer person, but it somehow I went to bed and woke up the next day saying, this Pride's going to be different. So I'm going to have more compassion for my community, and I'm going to listen to the people that made a different vaccination choice, because there's a lot of medication running around in our community. You know what I mean? It's like one more thing.
Duane and I were chatting about this a little bit last night, because I think there's a certain demographic of like Himeros audience that, we have like certain themes that I think, like, we talk about Tantra and chakras, and sometimes we hit like New Age spirituality. And I think there's just like a higher level of vaccine hesitancy in some of those groups. And I think it's challenging for me to make space for that, because, like if you unplug your Wi-Fi router at night because like you think it's interfering with your health, which has killed 0 people, by the way, like Wi-Fi routers have not killed anyone, but you won't take a vaccine that prevents a virus that has actually killed 3 million people. Like, it's hard for me to empathize with that, especially when their decision not to be vaccinated doesn't just impact them, but the whole community. That like there's more strains of variants that could be vaccine resistant. It's hard for me to be like, yeah, okay, fine. I can find like compassion and like love in my heart for you. I'm like, talk to your doctor, like not your spiritual guide. Like talk to your doctor who has 14 years of, school, and make a decision together. But
I'm with you both. Actually, I am pro-vaccine myself, but I will say I understand, because this piece about the wireless router, that's the person that has the control in that situation. From the outside in, there's a lack of trust, and there are a lot of reasons why trust is not like the first thing we feel when we think about the government. So and people that like have just been in situations their whole lives where it's like from the outside in, having to, I don't know, trust and make this leap. So I can see where they're coming from as an empathy point. But for me, I like people that I respect in the medical field taking it with like, they're like, yeah, it's fine. For me is like, oh, that's very reassuring, to see people that I trust their opinion being like, it's totally cool.
But there also are communities that have been fucked over by medical, like historically. So like,
I mean,
that
in
part I can get.
Ways.
Right. That part I can get.
Yeah.
But if you're like putting a crystal up your butt and thinking that's keeping you safe,
totally.
but like, vaccinated.
Let's not conflate.
Right. Or they're like doing like recreational drugs all the time, right? They're like, like doing tons of recreational drugs without, or like drinking a lot or whatever. I'm like, oh, I don't vaccinate. I'm like, yeah, but you eat sugar every day. You
I'm eating Doritos.
Yeah.
I won't put it.
It's the Mountain Dew Dorito eaters for me too, Davey. Definitely. It's definitely that.
I'm not going to put that.
Wait a minute. Let us not shame Mountain Dew drinkers, okay? I don't drink it often, but I like it very much.
No.
Whenever I can.
You do
I am going to say that. Maybe a few times a year.
I'm dedicating. I get you, Duane. I'm dedicating. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just wondering, is it like a moment where you like hear the can like open and you're like, what are they like? Yeah, what's the experience like?
It is when I do settle into it. Really, it's you know who has the best Mountain Dew? Taco Bell. I don't know why.
The Baja Blast.
Someone explained to me. Yes, someone explained to me that it's something to do with Pepsi owning Taco Bell. Or I don't know what
they put the good shit in Taco Bell.
Yeah, like there is like the Mountain Dew is completely different. I kid you not. I have passed a Taco Bell in the car and gone, I want a Mountain Dew. I don't even want Taco Bell. I just want a Mountain Dew.
Girl, do you know I've never even had Taco Bell?
Really?
I don't think you could process it. You should do that with your straight boy from TikTok. That should be the video. Yeah. He should feed you. He should feed you the beaniest, yuckiest Taco Bell thing.
Oh my God. And I'll never bottom again in my life.
For him? I'm teasing.
Well, I don't. for him, I mean, I'll make it happen. I've got other holes. This is the only one.
You can use your armpit.
Yeah, we'll make it work. All right. I feel like today's podcast is going to touch all the nerves. All right. So before we get into smoking gun, I do want to mention this, that the upcoming Himeros experience in October, the double rooms, the 2-person rooms, are fully sold out. So so that's good news for bad news if you were planning on getting a 2-person room.
I mean, no, you're just gonna get all the bougie bitches now.
Well, no, because now it's just 4-person rooms or like the 10-person room.
Were there any singles?
Which is like
there were no singles.
No singles.
You don't do singles. I would not go on this trip.
Well, then you could buy 2 tickets. You could buy 2 tickets, and then you have a single.
First of all, Davey, I'm flown out.
First class. So we do have 10 spots available in the quad rooms, which are the 4-person rooms, and we have 9 spots available in the garden cabin, which is a 10-person room. But we just lost LeoRising.
We lost LeoRising.
Oh.
Oh, there he is. He's back. He's going to get.
I was just.
Yep. So those tickets are still $100 off. I'll probably do that for another week or two. So they're $1,550 and $1,450 respectively. And we are going to be observing the CDC guidelines for the event. And I know that that's very vague because we don't know what the CDC guidelines are going to be in October. And a lot of people have emailed me. They're like, well, are we going to do this? Are we going to do that? And it's like, we can't commit to something right now and then have those be like outdated in October. So we should have a better understanding of that by this summer. But anyway, we're going to do everything we can to keep people safe. And LeoRising is back. We can't hear you.
We can't hear you, though.
Are you muted on purpose? Oh, okay. LeoRising is muted on purpose.
Okay.
This is a game.
Yeah, like what's going on
It's
here?
so mysterious.
I know. It's
So, yeah. All right. So before we talk about Smoking Gun, I do have a little preamble. And really, actually, I want to thank Finn because I know that you really put your heart and your soul into this video. And you did so knowing, that you're probably going to take, that we're all going to take a lot of heat for it. And I appreciate that you're willing to kind of take risks and courageously follow your truth where it leads. And I'm really grateful too that we have a place where we can, a place like Himeros TV where we can have a video like that, but also these conversations, because this video couldn't exist anywhere. It couldn't exist on Pornhub. It couldn't exist on Twitter. There's just a lot of conversations that get censored by the powers that be. And I'm grateful to have a platform where we can show and talk about content that pushes us to the edge. And I hope that all of us, not just us on the podcast, but people who are listening at home and people who watch it, can have those conversations with mutual respect and understanding and all that good stuff. So, all right.
Yeah.
Shall we dive into Smoking Gun?
Absolutely. Why not?
Yeah.
Did you want to say something, Finn?
Oh,
Finn's fired up. Finn's ready to go.
I'm not fired up. I mean, my heart feels really tender about it. It's a complex situation. I do think it's important to just highlight that these concepts, and we don't always talk about it this way, but they're part of, at least when I write them, and I think LeoRising too, but not all the writers do this, where it's part of a collection and it's in a context that's like a project. So this project was Gore and Gold. It was filmed explicitly exploring shadow and like some of the harder edges around the psyche and gay life and the way that gay men have internalized a lot of misogyny and patriarchal values. So in that context, it wasn't like, and I mean, the viewers don't get that, that context always, they see it in the collection post afterwards if it's part of a collection. But when I write a project, I'm thinking they all they're like siblings almost. They relate to each other. Mm-hmm. So I just want to throw that in.
Yeah. And people can click on the collections tab to see videos that are filmed in the same set together. I think this is our first one released
from Gore and Gold.
From Gore and Gold. So right now it's kind of sitting there by itself. But okay. So Smoking Gun, that's the title. Probably our most controversial video that we've done in nearly 4 years of Himeros TV. It is, as we mentioned, surprise, surprise, a Finn Dearhart original. Directed by Ed. It features Gabriel Cross, Jafar, and Oliver Hunt. It was filmed earlier this year in the UK. Finn facilitated the project remotely. I wasn't able to fly to the UK. It was produced by a different producer, Sam. So I'm washing my hands of all responsibility. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
The film does open with a trigger warning, and it notes that the film contains simulated sexual violence, also some flashing sequences. So there was a lot of this video has everything. But it opens with the Finn Dearhart quote. And I'm going to read this quote because I think it's really important in terms of kind of consuming the content that follows. It says, "Our physical bodies are a receptacle of ideas, most of which are not our own. The ideas we host, the judgments we cherish, the internal violence to which we agree are no less destructive than guns and knives. We invite you to cease fire and make this commitment to yourself. The war stops here." And then it's followed by another quote. "The wound is the place where the light enters you." And that's Rumi. Is that how you pronounce it?
Mm-hmm.
Rumi?
Yeah. Not right.
So
That's a card game.
How else? Yeah. How else were you going to pronounce that?
Rumi's a card game. That's like a card game.
Yeah, my grandma used to play gin rummy.
Yeah. It could be someone's name nowadays. You don't know.
It's very Rhode Island of you. I liked it.
the first image that you see from, I'm just very ignorant. The first image that you see from the film is Gabriel, and in the opening shot, it's very dramatic, and he's basically, it's so funny because we haven't talked about this video yet. You just watched it.
I just watched it. Yeah.
So Gabriel's basically sucking off a handgun, and it's a plastic handgun, obviously, but it's very dramatic. And then Oliver enters with a rubber knife. We see a scene that contains lots of gun and knife play, as Gabriel sucks cock and then gets fucked. LeoRising, you were shaking your head. Did you feel like it wasn't that dramatic to you?
Oh no, I was shaking my head at the fellatioing the gun. It does something interesting for me where I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
It makes my body, or it guides my body to have a reaction that I'm unpacking, is how I would say it maturely.
Was that the most intense imagery in it for you, or was, because there's a part, the part where I clutched my pearls was at some point the plastic handgun is used as like a dildo. Mm-hmm. Like I wasn't going to tap out, but I was like, when I saw that, I physically, it was like, like, I had a gasp.
I can understand that. I'm preconditioned by my choice in film to see a lot of guns to faces, and I always have the same reaction every time because it's never a good thing. And so gun hole to nose denotes you're most likely going to hear the pop. And so even though I'll watch those movies, I still have the same physical reaction inside my cheeks and under my collarbone. Like that's where I feel it.
Yeah. Yeah. And
but
I think
know it's
a lot of people had feelings about this. Finn, I want to ask a little bit about like your intention. And we can make space for kind of all the reactions, but also to invite people to dig deeper because, there were a lot of comments in the video. I didn't approve all of them, but there's a lot on the site, and there was a lot of like, oh, this video offends me. And like, okay, but that's not, that's not an argument. Like I'm offended. Like that's not adding something to the conversation. If this video is painful, then the idea is to like, let's explore that and let's explore what's coming up. So Finn, I'm curious, what was your intention?
Yeah. I mean, I actually prepared some things to say. Feel free to jump in and make it more of a conversation than a declaration. But before I get into that, like, I also received a bunch of messages, emails, some stuff that's kind of scathing, so I've been like, my first reaction was defense. I was texting you like, what? Like, I actually like had this reaction in my body to fight back. But then I just was like, honestly, what I feel like is I have always wanted to like not disappoint people. And part of the problem is in these messages that I've received is I don't know what the pain point is, by me making the, and I'll elaborate on that. the statement at the front of the video was to say, I don't know, like I think Ed did do some editing on it, but the intention was like, this is an exaggeration, this is a role play. I think that by the time it gets to guns and knives in real life, like the ideas are the problem. And I really believe that the ideas are embedded in who we are as people. It's in our bodies. It's how we have sex. It's how we pursue sex. It's the way gay men treat each other. It's the way they like swipe. Ooh, I don't like that. Oh, no. There's all kinds of this that happens like without being aware of it or being honest about it in our minds. And we project all that shit onto other people. And then by the time it gets to, guns and knives and wars and stuff, it's just way, way past the point where one could say, oh, this is my darkness. And so when I did this, I honestly didn't realize it was going to have this kind of trigger for people. I knew people would go, ooh, that's but I've actually seen art exhibits before of women having put like guns in their pussies. And it moved me so much because I know that women live under a kind of mentality that men can't possibly understand. And I've read like accounts from men who transitioned from female to male. And it's like once they were in the guy's world, so much of their lives like changed, and like hearing the description of like all that noise stopped, the way that guys talk about girls and like feeling that kind of discomfort stop for them. So kind of hearing like the difference, in what it's like in male values of like locker room culture versus like what other people have to experience. So I just wanted to highlight that. And I know that it's provocative. When I saw, like I said, when I saw the art exhibit of women with the guns in them, I was like moved with compassion. It's a frightening image, but I also didn't take it literally. I know that she's not really wanting that, but we're conditioned to want these, gay men serve the patriarchy unless they intentionally on purpose try to say, I'm going to stop this. And that's the whole point. I have to do this to myself. I have to look at how I judge people constantly. And like, it comes out. I mean, recently, if I notice like on social media, I'll have like, oh God, that guy, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, whoa, like stop that right now. Like just kind of moving that aside. Cause I really want to get clear on that and about how we judge ourselves. It's just, I think it's so embedded. So that's where I'll start. And I can say more later.
Can you also share that? I mean, no, it wasn't rambly.
No, not at all.
And this video, I think, was also intensely personal for you. We talked a little bit about this before, that like you had a traumatic instance of violence, and you said you'd be comfortable sharing some of that story and maybe how it shaped this video a bit for you.
Totally, yeah. No, I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about this. Actually, so when I was 19. I was in ministry school and I was almost out of the closet. I was experimenting with men, and I had already kind of felt like this, like, as soon as I'm done with ministry school, I think I'm going to come out of the closet. And I'd already been through like an abusive childhood with, my dad beating me and other people at school beating me up. So I've always felt like this target, and there was one night where I was driving around in my car with one of my friends from ministry school. And I actually was really in love with him at the time. And it was like this really... he was my accountability partner, and we were not supposed to like masturbate. And if we did, we tell each other about it, but it was this like closeted situation. But anyway, I was driving around and like parked on the side of the road, just talking to him one night, and these guys in a truck came up. I'll just kind of bullet point this because I don't want to get too deep into it. But guys came up in a truck and like shined their lights in my windshield. And then one guy got out of the car, came around to my side, the driver's side, and like started hitting my window and was telling me to get out of the car. He was going to kill me. And I thought that like, oh, he's just being a bully. This has happened to me since I was a little kid. I know these kinds of people, quote unquote, but I didn't really know how serious he was. And I took off in the car. They chased me and my friend into a cul-de-sac and ended up like blocking off the cul-de-sac at the bottom, so we couldn't get out. And then like there was a series of just strokes of luck for us. Like we parked in a driveway with our lights off. The truck didn't see us. They drove past, so we had this opening and a way to get out. But then whenever we were driving away, we were kind of lost out in the country. By the time we got back to the opening of the road that we were on that would take us back to the main highway, the guys had already beaten us there, and we're in the middle of the road with rocks, and they broke our windshields. And we got around them. They chased me into town. I had been on the phone with 911 for a while, and the cops are supposed to meet me at a particular intersection, and they weren't there. So it kept going on and on and on. Finally, the dispatcher was like, hey, there's units on the scene, go back to this agreed upon location. So we did a U-turn, came back. The guys pulled up in the truck next in the car, on the road, and were still yelling they were going to kill me, and they were calling me a pussy, and, all this stuff. And they hit a car. So that just stopped them in their tracks. But that was like just the high notes of the story, I guess. But like, it was a really intense time for me because it was just like one thing after another that had led up to that point in my life where it was just like, I can't, like, who I am, what I look like, what I talk like people keep targeting me. They always have. And it was just like this point where I just went back in the closet and was there for a decade later. I got married to a woman. It was an intense time in my life and a critical point. So the guy's eyes, like in the windshield, like it looked like the way that my dad used to look when he was just so full of rage and anger. And a lot of the work that I've done too in myself and with other men in my life, like the rage that guys carry in them, it doesn't matter if it's on an extreme end of the spectrum to these like guys that are trying to kill me, or just guys that are like being assholes just out in the world somewhere. I feel like it's the same stuff. It's just like our fear of rejection and our like fear of humiliation and like trauma that we've been through. And it's like a wound that we share. And that's really the point that I'm trying to make. Like, I feel like I've participated in this a lot, and I want to encourage people too, just to kind of think about it the way it's like taken over the mind. Like when you come across guys of color in porn, like what do? Do you tokenize them? Do you like fetishize them? Do you scroll past? Like, you know, like when you're swiping on your apps looking for sex, like you're, ooh, I don't like his dick. I don't like his body. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that like nobody thinks is violent, but it is.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. And the messages that I've received, they're not telling me the pain point. They're like moralizing and making value assessments instead of saying like, this hurts me and this is where it hurts me. And I'm like, I've been trying to think about like, where's the empathy for me to try to like hear what people are saying? I really want to know, you know, but just telling me that I'm grandiose and this and that, it's not really helping me to see where they're coming from. And I feel like I can connect. That's all.
Yeah. LeoRising, you were going to say something?
I want to support any artist listening with a fact. And if you know anything about art, we don't have a lot of those. But a fact is that after hearing Finn's story, what one could come to is that he was revisiting a pain point so that he could continue to have healing from the pain point and have autonomy over his story. And so if you guys were to type in narrative medicine, if you guys were to type in sense memory, if you guys were to type in and look up how to use my story to help, and it doesn't matter what you're helping, mostly you're helping yourself. It's about equipping and applying the imagination, building a different outcome with your ability to survive at the end. Because as long as you are surviving at the end, you're telling your story. That's why the whole Hamilton reference is who lives, who dies, who tells your story. If you're alive, with tools, guidance, and support, you can tell your story. Now, how you tell your story and the point in which you tell the story from, and the point of which while you're telling the story, is open. The narrator is open for reception at the end of the story once it's been produced and shared. I'm not surprised, nor am I judgmental upon, nor am I asking an audience to recognize that they don't know how to listen to someone's story. They came for porn. They didn't come for gay trauma, but what they're missing out on is every porn star, every actor, every model, every writer, every director, anybody who's come to the podcast has a trauma that they're walking with in their flesh. And we're all just trying to perform and be present to the best of our ability without that trauma coming up. And often the way I work with intimacy and the way I work with metaphysics and the way I work in art is eventually you don't have to tell me your story, but I've got to be able to feel like the mirror of my heart is fairly being witnessed by the mirror of your heart. Like we're seeing each other. We may not use the words. And this isn't excusing things that are triggering or confronting about any piece that you'll see. But if you can pay for Jathan Stratham movie, you can watch Finn's film understanding where he's coming, where he would like to emotionally and somatically take you on a journey as an artist while telling a story. Is that, I mean, Finn's point, and this is clinical, this is spiritual for me, and then it's artistic for me. Finn's point of no one's telling me their pain point is a position that, depending on who you would offer that to, it could almost come off as a point of privilege, a position of privilege, but it's a privilege of I've worked through my story enough that I can tell it and I can futz with it, not the F word, futz with it. I can expand upon it. I can extrapolate from it and do these fantastical things. Some people are hurting because they just can't even fathom the idea of taking a tincture of their story and embellishing it and expanding it and then finding a vehicle for it. Other people are hurting because they don't want to be revisited of those things. But hearing that you're being driven, or that you're dealing with half of Texas Chainsaw Massacre and what almost sounded like the town was in on it is frightening for me. That's way more frightening for me and way more emotionally triggering than images that I didn't like in a techno weird gunplay. Like, it's a kink thing. Like, people do these things in kink, right?
Totally.
But your personal story is, I don't think it's fair for any audience to say when a story is appropriate. Because when a person's ready to speak on their trauma, they're ready to speak on their trauma. And if we keep policing when people can speak on their trauma, and this goes both ways, right? So people may not have the skills yet to orate or to notate, this is my pain point. And I know it's slamming at you, but you have the skill set. So it's about how can you maintain a relationship of trust that we've developed with these audience members who don't know how to genuinely listen or observe. And some of them do. I looked at some of the comments. I'm like, oh, these are people that are with it. So you confronted them involuntarily, so they're confronting you back. And so thus becomes dialogue, right? But then there are people that don't have those skills that are just triggered at the moment. And how do we judge them? Do we call them not intelligent? No, because it's not a matter of intelligence. It's an unawareness. You either have empathic literacy or you haven't actioned it yet, and it takes time. You have it, and so you're able to confront, but it's also now it's not cleanup and it's not ownership. It's ownership of your story, but the ownership of your story is going to come with, am I now ready to work on the other skill, which is inviting the audience in, because they never have to trust us again. They never have to trust you again, but they definitely want to feel as though they know how to assess and tackle these things that were provoked in them. And now hopefully people that commented you listen to the audio today, and people that commented on the website listen, because someone who has that sort of experience is, if this wasn't porn, like, Finn's a perfect candidate for being a horror and thriller writer. People who have that experience usually tend to go out in the world and say, now I'm in control of that adrenaline. I'm in control of it now. That feels a little bit better. I saw the comment, I don't want to hog up space, but I saw the comment about a reference to Oz, and Oz, the HBO show. And I was like, that's a really good reference. Not that I want to side with the video that I would never pay to watch, because I wouldn't watch this, right? But that's me just knowing my stuff. That's not me judging the artist. That's me knowing my shit. I wouldn't watch this. But I did watch the shit out of Oz. But what I learned about Oz was what I didn't want to ever experience from a man, and what I definitely didn't want to experience in jail, should I ever end up there. I was like, whoa, this is a lot. And they took a lot of risks, but they were praised for it and they were shunned for it, and people's careers were destroyed for being in that show, and people's careers are augmented. Two of the most abusive characters on that show are two white men that are still working. You know what I mean? There's the actor of Oz, the man who played Poet, Mums, phenomenal actor, transitioned during the COVID experience. His career, he didn't do anything that was outside of the norm for him, but it's a matter of his legacy is attached to the show that was extremely confronting about male traits and candor and posturing and abuse, like intersectional male abuse and racial abuse. He was on that show, you know? We can't just look for IFC and these other networks to tell stories when there's a lot of trauma stories that clearly exist within our own community. And we also can't take away the adrenaline because it's now being told by us. We have to learn how to listen. The artist is learning to listen to themselves and then share what came up for them. The audience has to learn how to listen and tell the artist precisely where it's off for them, but where it was right, and end it with either learn to ask the question, how did you come to that? Or this is where it brought me. Like earlier when I was like, oh, when I see that, it gets in my cheeks and it gets in my chest. That's learned. That's a learned skill. It doesn't mean I'm going to be upset with anyone who puts me in that place, but if I know where it took me, I know to not revisit that if it means something to me. That's my piece on it for now.
I also think that, like, I totally get this idea that, you know, someone signs up for Himeros TV. They're like, I'm here to watch porn. I'm here to jerk off. And, you know, they come and they see a video like this. But the vision of Himeros TV is to explore the intersection of gay sex and joy. And you can't do that without also, it's disingenuous to do that without exploring the shadow and working through the trauma that a lot of us have. Like, it's if you want to see, the same old gay porn, there's a million websites that can offer that. The promise with Himeros is that we do things a little bit differently and that we have some of these more difficult conversations that we're having. So, that people were offended by this video. Like I'm offended going on Pornhub and scrolling through page after page of videos that say nothing about anything. Like sexuality is a lot more than that. I want it to be real. This was very real and very vulnerable, I think, for Finn to share this. Duane, you've been quiet.
Well, I mean, maybe it's because I'm a Mountain Dew drinker, or I mean, honestly, I watched this video. Obviously, I haven't had time to marinate on it.
You just watched it.
I literally
You're fresh
just watched it. But my immediate reaction was, I saw it a bit like I saw it as very artistic. I saw it as like a Damien Hirst piece. I mean, it's shocking. It touches something inside of you, maybe, but I could see it at the Tate Modern. I mean, I guess I took a very, whoops daisy. I took a very, I had a very different reaction to it. It didn't trigger me in any particular way. It made me think about, certain, fantasies, and it made me, question certain things, and like, why do you feel this, why do you feel a sensation attached to certain things? Why do we react to other things? But I mean, maybe it's the Mountain Dew, but I honestly, I thought it was, I saw it as extraordinarily artistic.
It does feel artistic. And actually, if you look at it from the perspective of an art installation, I think the comments are part of it, because there were comments that were like, making fun of our grandiose vision, making fun of the voiceovers, like basically proving what the video is saying.
Which had nothing to do with this video either. You know what I'm saying? Like the voiceovers, I'm like, where's this coming from? This is just kind of like, that's why, I didn't mean.
But it also proves the point that the video is making, that we have these, toxic attitudes towards ourselves and to each other, and that those attitudes are every time I look in the mirror and think that I'm unlovable, or that I'm too fat, or too this or too that, or every time I judge whatever I see in my social media, like these are acts of violence that we're committing against ourselves and each other.
They totally are.
Here it's being depicted through this artistic representation in the film. Anyway, Finn, I'm curious what you think, since we've all had a chance.
No, I'm just loving. I appreciate you guys, and I do. I don't want to just like make people upset on purpose, but I do. I feel very committed to the values piece about it, because I feel like, like I've spent most of my life like trying, checking my abs constantly, or feeling like just not good enough in some way, and it's the same shit. It's just like maybe more innocuous, because it's like not like so dramatic, but it's like I'm doing violence to myself, or I'm living in a kind of like a thought that like, cuts me up. And guys do this so much. And the stuff that I hear too, just working with men, confirms this for me. I mean, people's fantasies too. There's so many consensual non-consent fantasies, people feel shame about it. They're like, why do I have a rape fantasy? Well, it's like, because you have a really traumatic relationship with power, look at where we live. Like, duh. Like, it's like like, look at what was the playground like for you? What were other boys like for you? What was it like with your dad? And a lot of gay guys, like, it's like they leave like really hard childhoods and they go to a city and they start fucking. And it's like, oh, that's all behind me now. But it's not, because it's like what they look for in sex partners. It's what they eroticize, I should say, like. And I made the comment about porn. That piece, like, I think if you think you're immune to this, like, ask yourself some really honest questions about what's the hottest thing to you in a man. when you come across people of different cultures or ethnicities, what do you do when you come across them in porn? Because in people in their porn life, that's like this like little window of unexamined territory where they don't really look at the values they're actually experiencing. The way that they handle those situations will tell you a lot about how you think about people and like how racism is ingrained in us and all of this stuff, like misogyny, you know, like bottom shaming. It's like a joke all the time. It's just like, it's the same thing. It's just all, in my mind, it's like in us as a culture, and it's even like lauded in certain ways. So it's a pain. And also, it, you know, as far as like, this is the last thing I'll say, spirituality, you know, like a lot of the comments centered around this is not spiritual. And I'm sorry to say that I don't agree that like spirituality is not just like feeling good. It's like admitting it hurts or saying, you know, or having a conversation or like listening to hard opinions. I mean, that's all part of spirituality too, like grief. So many men like that I work with too, it's like having a really hard time admitting where they hurt and they don't know why they don't feel joy. It's because you can't like selectively mute what you've been through or what you feel. So that's spiritual, to have the strength to like admit how we're affected and how we carry these thoughts, you know?
I just want to then make sure that even with everyone's equipment into how they explain themselves is the top that they can do in that moment, yourself included, myself, Duane, and Davey, and everyone who commented, whether they reached out to you personally or if they're doing it publicly, they're explaining themselves to the best of their ability. And in regards to confronting art, everything's metaphor. So this could have been, Vin could have easily have said, this is just a nightmare I had, so he made it a film, and then it could have just dismissed it as a dream piece,
right?
But instead, like he is owning that he wrote it, he conceived it, and the director team continued to conceive it and fleshed it out and extrapolated it. But if this was a dream, and we all were just listening to the dream, or we were the therapists analyzing the dream, would our reactions be the same? Would we be as judgmental on it? And it's like we are devaluing a really important layer of psyche and a pool of trust. Any mistrust that the audience feels about this content coming at them, right, they're almost equipping that mistrust momentum to continue. So now there's an expectation that the next video is going to bother me as well. Now at this, they're building this narrative of this mistrust is now present in my life everywhere, because like the Davey Wavy porn site's not as squeaky vanilla as if this thing's ever been vanilla. You know, like
right.
I don't think anyone comes to porn for vanilla. I don't think you're LGBTQ plus if you're vanilla.
By virtue of it, yeah.
By virtue
of what it is.
Call Me by Your Name is literally a black gay male tapping into their feminine energy and then riding a stripper pole to hell. Right? And it's
and doing a lap dance on Satan.
Yeah. And it's like, that's like, and I'm bringing that up because it's like, I'm not saying any of the people who commented are doing this, but it's a matter of when you haven't explored, I hate saying the word shadow, but when you haven't explored shadow, you haven't had a conversation with your shadow, you haven't even had a conversation with your flesh. Like I talk to my thighs and my glutes after I shit. And I'm saying it that way because I want you guys to get like, I talk with my body and I let my body inform me, right? Everyone's not there. So if you're not having those conversations and letting the dark thoughts that you're very quick to send, because there was a lot of mentions of we don't need negativity. And I'm like, this is really interesting, right? Because as the spiritualist, whenever I see the word negativity in a comment about what someone did or negativity upon receiving a comment, like if the person who receives it goes, well, they were just giving me negative comments. It's like, no, they are speaking from their experience the best that they can. So people that use the word negativity, I need you to get better equipment and go a little bit deeper, because it's not just negative, it's confronting. And if it's confronting, we can expand and you can reassess your level of trust. But if it's negative, it's fearful, and you're admitting you don't have the capabilities to handle the conversation, which is unfair to you. Because whoever drops this wants you to be a part of the conversation. Their trust is that you're strong enough to talk to them.
Totally.
And if we're going, oh, this shit is negative, then the only thing we're saying is I fear I don't have enough tools to be a part of this conversation, which could be true, but then write that. But that was the point of it being confronted. And this is really elevated. Like, I should be paid for this. Like, this was like up there, but it's not an absolute statement. This is just how I would work with anyone who had a lot of trouble with this, unjudgmentally on both parties, so that the person who had trouble with it can unpack why and be stronger in a different place and be able to articulate in a moment when the gun's in the mouth and say, oh no, this is not my movie. Like, I'm not watching this. And they'll get there.
I think this video also sort of reinforces the hybrid nature of Himeros, in the sense that, you know, it's not only a place for people to go and get off. It's a place to go and be thoughtful and to think and to sort of, come to terms with issues surrounding sexuality. It's a two-part sort of issue. So I say this particularly because watching it, like I said, I watched it very artistically. If this had been, at an exhibition, then there would have been a curator to tell me Finn's story and what the artist was trying to get to. And my reaction probably wouldn't have been any different, but I think that other viewers might have a different reaction if they understood it within that context.
Yeah. And and that's what this podcast is too. It's kind of the curation of it. People can talk about it. Yeah. And like in LeoRising, what you're saying about like the better equipment, like, yes, like if this video was offensive to you, like why and how, and was it offensive because, you're seeing a Middle Eastern appearing man in camouflage and like playing into a terrorism trope? Like, that's a conversation. Like
totally.
That's something that like jumped out at me as being like, oh, could we have cast this differently? Did we need the uniforms? Then if they were in street clothes, LeoRising, you had mentioned this in a previous podcast, like that also might not have worked, because then it's reinforcing this trope that like men of color, like in everyday attire in the street, are dangerous. Like, so maybe could the casting in general have been done differently? I know Jafar, the Middle Eastern model who's in this, like this is his jam, this type of
edge play,
like this concept. He's really into it. Okay, like, but like that may be true, but maybe we can find a different video where he can explore that edge like in a different way than this one. So yeah. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, I just again, I appreciate the conversation. And, when I left the church, when I left the church and everyone found out about, my lifestyle, quote unquote, so when I was like in my early 20s, I got scathing letters from church members. They like, remember MySpace? They like published my MySpace link in like the national publication. Like, it was a big thing for these people. And I got like these, messages being like, yeah, you like fallen into the slime of hell, that kind of stuff, just real dramatic language. One of the people who wrote me a horrible message, like several years later, wrote me another one. And it was just like, hey, I was wondering if you would forgive me for this message, because when you left the church, like I was so angry because I wanted to leave and I just wouldn't let myself leave, and it was like a really powerful moment for me. And I actually ended up being friends with this person. So when I was receiving some of these notes, it had that same kind of feel to me where I'm like, I really didn't intend to cause a problem. And here people are angry and sending me these messages. And
Well, if you had written a video where they use those guns and knives to kill each other,
we call it Game of Thrones without the guns, right? Like,
right.
Everyone drinks and watches it and eats popcorn and
Yeah, and you'd go to a movie theater to watch it with your friends, and
interestingly, I can't. You know what? Honestly, brother, I think you know this too. Both, I don't know if you know this, LeoRising. I don't even like horror movies. It's hard for me to watch them personally, like because I feel like unless it has some sort of like meaning behind it, like it's hard for me to watch gratuitous violence. Like I'm like, there's enough shit that is going on in the world that it's hard for me to enjoy it. And in my own history. But if I do feel like there's something to it that I learn, I end up having a different relationship with it. So I wish, I guess, that like the context was rolled out in a way that made it where it's not like, I'm not just eroticizing guns. Like I have zero turn on about like sucking off a gun myself. Like that's not what the point is, you know?
Yeah. And also there are a lot of people who do, like there's
who do,
like,
right?
Yeah. Who like gun and knife play is like a kink of BDSM. I think it's a little shocking because it's one of the like flavors of BDSM that we don't see because you can't upload anything with guns or knives on like any of the Pornhub or any of the tube sites. So you would only be able to see that under like in a private website, like Himeros TV.
Upload a movie.
Right.
You can make a Hollywood film, a Hollywood blockbuster where that exact thing happens.
I think the concern is like, well, how are guns and knives going to be used in like, you know, in porn? And is it going to be used?
I have a somatic answer for that.
Yeah.
So at the same time where someone is being aroused, whether it's voluntarily, like consent based, or it's triggered based, if you add in violence, you then set off a reaction in the brain that sends someone to disassociation. And so then when the arousal and the pain is present, it's in simple language, it's a little brainwashy. And so it's intense for people. It's confronting. Hollywood makes tons of money because they show you beautiful women being mauled. That's why horror movies have the tit scene.
Totally.
That's why they do it. Because we're arousing you and then we're attacking you. You're vulnerable. You're aroused. Attack. So I've looked at that as to why I still like action films and horror films, and I can revisit some of the films that I grew up on, but I can't do all of them. But in writing now and dealing with things now, it's like, do I want to bring that to the world? Like, I understand our community that's upset. I get it. But I also want them to like, I don't like the video. Like, I want that, but I'm okay confronting Finn about that. You know what I mean? But I confront him with the tools that extrapolate where the story came from, so that not to just preserve the relationship with Finn, but preserve trust. Now, if Finn was out here Rob Zombieing my ass all the fucking time, we'd have a problem. I wouldn't be on the podcast with him. You know what I mean? But that's not what it was an experiment. It's a trial. Challenge yourselves to have bigger conversations with people that can actually like give you some dope answers. Like, he's not going to hurt us by giving us an answer.
And also, like, I love that you didn't like this video because, like,
I can't stand this video.
Yeah. Like, when we're creating content that like pushes people's boundaries, content that's artistic, like we're not going to create stuff that everyone loves all the time. If we were creating videos that everyone loved all the time, like, I don't know what that would look like, but I suspect it wouldn't be very interesting.
I think it already exists.
I mean, I have clients that, you know, they're triggered by like group sex stuff. They feel like a lot of shame around that. You know, it's like, what do we go? Yeah. Oh, come on, that's just normal in the gay community. Get over it, because they actually are on the conservative side of things in a way. I don't think that's the answer, you know?
Yeah. But I just want to like manage the expectation for the audience. Like, you're not going to love every video that we upload, and like, and the ones that you do, like, other people also probably don't love. Like, it's that's.
I'll say this piece too about the Athens project that I'm writing currently. It does not go to this edge. It's more fun.
I know we're kind of coming up on the top of the hour here. I just want to say quickly, from an editing standpoint, there were 3 versions of this video. This is the third final version. Yeah. I think Finn saw all of them.
I did.
LeoRising saw, I think, 2 versions. This one and one other. You only saw this one. The first one was like a. You remember that movie Taken with Liam Neeson? It had like strong like Taken vibes, suspenseful music. It was like, yeah. Second version was like classical music. Both of the first and second version were very like narrative. It was chronological, like A to B to C to D. Some of the input that we got was to make this feel more like an experience, so it could be more appreciated as like a metaphor. Which was this version, which had kind of the more disco-y music, the flashes. It was a little bit not so connected, and it was also shorter. If you watch the trailer, because I think people are probably listening, they go, "Oh, I'm gonna go see this trailer." If you look at the trailer on the site, you're not going to see any of the guns or knives. Because there's not a trigger warning before we couldn't just throw that into the trailer and have people confronted by this. And then also I was also aware that if we put that out there and people get screenshots and it's very easy to take a lot of this out of context. And I could just see a screenshot of Gabriel with a gun up his butt being Himeros TV is eroticizing violence against gay people. Yeah. So
I think you should strike
if you want to see
sentence.
the full thing.
Do not give these people no ideas.
What do you mean?
I just don't give them no ideas. Dominique, strike that sentence.
Yeah.
I want to plug this book, Boys and Sex by Peggy Orenstein. So this book, if you check this book out. She's a journalist. She interviews boys 17 to 22-year-old. Lots and lots and lots of interviews with guys about their first accounts of sex and the bro culture, locker room talk, queer people and transgender people, where they fit in that whole dialogue around male sexuality. Super interesting.
Well, the good news is next week we're discussing Jack Like an Athlete, which is...
Oh, like an athlete.
Yeah.
Perfect transition.
Yeah. A video that will offend no one.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, maybe especially not people who really put athletes on the altar.
Well, it's actually an instructional video. So you'll learn how to approach masturbation in the way that an athlete would approach training. It's actually a really good video. It's a Will Tantra video with Thyle in it. He's very sexy. We're also going to release a bonus video next week where we recreate an older man's one of the hotter stories from it's from the Route 66.
Oh, cool.
That's coming out. That's coming out as a bonus.
Yeah.
Bradford's story. Finn, where can people get more of you?
Well,
if you want to.
It sounds like you've had quite enough.
FinnDeerhart.com. FINNDEERHART.com. Also Finn Deerhart on Instagram. There's lots of puppy pictures there.
And LeoRising, where can people get more of you? Oh, LeoRising has left us again. On Instagram do you think it's LeoRising official LeoRising? One of those.
I think so. I can look it up.
And Duane, where can people get more of you?
At theDuaneWells.com.
The
one and only.
And remember, you can join Himeros.tv and save 20% off at Himeros.tv/pod.
LeoRising.
Thank you so much for
official. Oh, sorry. LeoRising official. Yes. On Instagram.
Again, glad we cleared that up.
Right.
Well, yeah. And Finn, thank you for opening up so much today and sharing so much of yourself.
Yeah. Thank you.
It really was great to receive that and felt really special. And I'm honored that you opened up with us in that way.
Yeah. Thank you. I felt like I was kind of not making sense as I was talking. So I felt sweaty and You
made a lot of sense. Thank you guys so much for listening. And as always, more to come.